What's up, taters? This is Tree from treeoflogic.com, and I have to talk to you about this Colorado bill that has been passed in the House and more likely will be signed into law by the governor of Colorado. And if you think this is not going to affect you, think again. Let me explain. It doesn't matter what part of the United States you live in. So let's just say you live in Texas, okay? And you are married to a crazy libtard woman. And that's your fault, by the way. Anyway, and she says, no, our son is our daughter now. And she basically convinced your son that he is a she. Well, guess what she can do to take away your parental rights? She can bring your son to Colorado for gender affirming care. And you have no say about that because they have now considered, based upon this bill, Colorado is a quote unquote sanctuary state for trans individuals. And therefore, it overrides your parental right. So you can't get the police, you can't get a court order, you can't do anything because as long as any parent from other states bring a child that they are considering going through transitioning, going from another gender, from one gender to another, they can bring it to Colorado and they are legally not allowed or forced to bring them back. They can stay there and have that child go through a transition through medical procedures or through indoctrination. It can completely take away your parental rights. Now, if you are a deadbeat dad living in Colorado and you don't want to pay child support and you don't want to have anything to do with your child, all you have to do is misgender them and you will lose custody. You literally can lose custody of your child by calling them their birth name or using the pronouns to their biological sex or gender. Okay. So let me just read this. I have a lot of things I want to include in this video because I need you to see how crazy this is. And even though it's out of Colorado, it still affects your right as a parent if you are married or even if your child decides to visit Colorado and wish to stay there to go through transitioning without your permission, they are allowed to do this. So let me just basically talk about this real quick and then I'm going to show you some videos. Colorado bill would classify misgendering, dead naming as child abuse, impact parental rights, custody cases. Colorado Democrats are proposing a bill that would classify misgendering and dead naming as a form of child abuse or coercive control that would be considered in child custody disputes. The bill HB 25-1312 was introduced on Friday and is set to go before the House Judiciary Committee on Tuesday. The bill's sponsor are Democrats Representative Lorena Garcia. Yeah, a woman. Rebecca Stewart. Faith Winters. Look at it, all them names. That sure is a Democrat woman. And Senator Chris Coker. All Democrats. Two women and a man. The bill subscribes to the false idea that one can identify as or become a different sex than they were born as, often called gender identity. The bill defines dead naming as to purposely and with the intent to disregard the individual's gender identity or gender expression, refer to an individual by their birth name rather than their chosen name. The bill defines misgender as to purposely and with the intent to disregard the individual's gender identity or gender expression, refer to an individual using an honorific or pronoun that conflicts with the individual's gender identity or gender expression. According to the bill's summary, the legislation would direct courts making child custody decisions and determining the best interests of a child for purposes of parental time to consider dead naming, misgendering, or threatening to publish material related to an individual's sex change service as type of coercive control. Now, Christy Brown was basically trying to sound the alarm on Twitter, and I think a lot of people did not take this seriously. Well, people outside of Colorado, for the most part, didn't take this seriously until it passed the House. So let me read this real quick. Heads up for parents, charter schools, and businesses. That's right. Oh, yeah. Check this out. if you have a private business and you misgender your customer or the employees there, you're going to get a big hefty fine. Okay. Now, I want to remind you all that Colorado is where the baker, that Christian baker who was forced, or I guess you could say they was trying to use lawfare to make him bake a cake for a gay couple. That's out of Colorado. They learned nothing. Anyway, HB 25-1312 is up today in judiciary. If parents misgender their child, they can lose custody. No school's dress code may be based on gender. Oh yeah, that's another thing too. So they usually have private schools as well as public schools where they give dress codes to females in reference to they're allowed to wear skirts, and the skirts have to be so high or at a certain length from their knees. Now they got rid of that. They got complete. So now the boys can wear skirts and they can wear anything that's considered female clothing. Yeah, no more dress codes for either male or female. They got rid of that. These people have gone bonkers. If a business misgenders someone, there's a fine. At this hearing, you had a lot of professionals speak against this bill, and I'm going to feature two of them in this video. One of them is Dr. Travis Morrell, and he's a board-certified dermatologist. He's also a proud father and husband. He's also part of the Do No Harm Project, and this is what he said during his testimony.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm Dr. Travis Morrell. I represent Colorado principled physicians, evidence-based physicians across the state. I'm here against HB 25-1312. I was very confused by earlier testimony downplaying this bill's effect and apparent intent. Literally, the second sentence on the page says, when making child custody decisions for purposes of parenting time, a court shall consider dead naming, misgendering as types of coercive control. A court shall consider reports, that is, a court shall consider reports of coercive control when determining the allocation of parental responsibilities. The bottom line is if a parent uses the name that they gave their own child or refers to the sex of the child that corresponds to a lifetime of memories raising that child, that alone can lead to decreased parental time or visitation. You don't need me to tell you that that's wrong. Bottom line, the best way to protect kids is to support good parents, which most are. I'll add that social transition increases the risk of medical harm. And without medicalization, we've known for decades that up to 98% of kids their gender dysphoria may self-resolve without any kind of medicalization. But social transition, which is what this bill basically requires of parents using certain names and pronouns and so on, increases medicalization and surgery, which can cause a lifetime of regret. We know from German and American insurance data that most youth after 5 to 7 years change course. We heard from Coloradan Evan De La Cruz earlier, who spoke earlier very painfully of the kind of barbaric treatment she received from physicians. And we don't want to require that from good parents.
Also at the hearing was Republican Representative Jarvis Caldwell, who has been openly speaking against this bill coming into law. And he's been a voice of reason, which most Republicans are. And I want to let you all know that no Republican in the state of Colorado was supporting this bill.
If you know me, you know I'm not a very hyperbolic person. And so what I'm about to say, I hope you take it to heart. This is the most egregious bill I have seen this entire session. The idea that misgendering your own child is considered coercive control, which is another word for abuse, child abuse, because you want to get your child help instead of affirming their delusions, and you can lose custody of your child over that.
He also appeared on Redacted, and I'm going to leave the link to their complete video, to their full interview on the video, and what he said was mind-blowing. Check this out.
Yeah, absolutely. So this bill has 9 different sections to it. So it actually has a very wide range of what it's trying to do with this transgender ideology nonsense. So the first portion of the bill, as you mentioned, it has to do with custody. And what it does is it directs courts to give the paramount consideration is the word they use, but basically give preference in a custody dispute to the parent who affirms the gender of the child instead of the parent who maybe wants to get the child treatment. And, you know, at its core, I'm a bit cynical from all I've seen here in Colorado. I think that is the goal. I think the goal is to no longer allow you to try to get treatment, because in order to try to give your child treatment, you have to, in a sense, misgender them and tell them, no, you're not really that other gender. We're going to take you to the doctor or a counselor. We're going to try to get you treatment. But what this bill is saying is if a parent is doing that and not recognizing or affirming that gender, then that is the same as child abuse. But the word they use is coercive control. And the definition of that, it's child abuse. So they're saying you're abusing your child by not affirming their gender. So that's just the first portion of the bill. There's a school aspect to it as well, as you had mentioned, and that's section 5. So to give you background, I'm a charter school board member down in Colorado Springs, and we have a gender-based dress code, which is we have boys' uniforms and girls' uniforms. Now, if a child wants, say it's a biological boy and he wants to wear girls' uniform, by law in Colorado, we can't necessarily refuse that, but there's a process. We bring the parents in, we sit down, we discuss it, and if in the end that's what the parent wants, by Colorado law, we can't deny that. What this is saying, what this bill is saying, you can't even create a gender-based dress code anymore. And in committee, I specifically asked the bill sponsor, Lorena Garcia, this. I said, when you're saying we can't create one, you're saying we can no longer have boys' uniforms and girls' uniforms. And she said, yes, that's correct. And I said, so the flyer that we give out with approved clothing for boys and approved clothing for girls, what you're saying is we just have to have a flyer that just has a bunch of articles of clothes and say wear whatever you want. And she said, yes, that's exactly what I'm talking about. There's another aspect of this bill, and it's section 3. And what it says is if Colorado will not recognize court rulings from other states if it has to do with the one parent bringing the child to Colorado to get gender affirming care. So think about a situation like this. You're in Kansas, you have two parents. One of the parents brings a child to do gender affirming care in Colorado because it's pretty much the Wild West here and there's no rules on it. And let's say this Kansas, the state of Kansas has a court ruling that says the custody belongs to this other parent that's still in Kansas. You have to bring that child back. This bill is saying, no, basically what we're calling it is like a transgender sanctuary state. They're saying we won't recognize that. And that goes directly against Article 4, Section 1 of the U.S. Constitution, which is also known as the Full Faith and Credit Clause, which says states must honor and recognize and abide by court rulings in different states. So that's another aspect to it. And then the last very big piece of this bill is about the Colorado Anti-Discrimination Act. And what it says is you can't misgender somebody in a place of public accommodation. And if you look up the Colorado Anti-Discrimination Act, a place of public accommodation, you know, the word public is in there, but what it actually means is private businesses. It means, and there's a list in there, I mean, hotels, restaurants, airports, anywhere. And so if you are a business owner and you misgender someone, you can be in violation of the Anti-Discrimination Act.
So after all the expert testimony and the witnesses, the Colorado House Committee has voted 7-4 to pass a radical transgender bill that makes misgendering a discriminatory act, takes children away from parents who did name or misgender them, and pushes gender ideology in all schools, including private and charter. Every demon rat voted for this, while every Republican opposed this. Democrats are the party of delusion. And here's a video of that taking place.
The question before us is the passage of House Bill 1312. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. No. The ayes have it. House Bill 1312 has passed.
And there you have it, Tater. So that's the Colorado bill. I do believe this is going to get challenged and it's going to just be abolished. I don't see this really going to the Supreme Court and being approved. As soon as the woke governor of Colorado signs this into law, it will be instantly challenged, and it goes through the proper procedures from that. This is really crazy. I don't understand this. Like, the whole trans ideology thing has gone out of control, and it's just violating everyone else's rights for the sake of theirs when they were never an issue in the past. And of course, the whole trans child and trans children thing, that in itself is a can of worms I'm not going to open right now, but I would love to hear what you think about this. And please spread the word, regardless if you are in Colorado or not. Okay, so share with me your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to give this video a like, and if you're new to my channel, subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next one.